You're breathtaking.
Therapists of Reddit, what are some interesting psychological facts about humans? Although there is no way to bring back the memories, playing music to dementia sufferers can bring back the feelings. The study was prompted when a dementia sufferer started crying happy tears to a song. He told the care staff that he had no idea why, but he felt really happy. His wife later identified the song as the one she walked down the aisle to on her wedding day. Psychiatric nurse here. Redirection is a hell of a skill. For example, we had a patient screaming at us and peacocking, just ready to fight someone. He had glasses on his head and I mentioned I liked them. He said I need them to read books. I asked him about the books he read and we had a whole discussion about that, and he completely forgot what he was angry about. Learning about it in school I was super skeptical, but seeing it work and using it often is incredible. Sometimes a small distraction from our feelings is all we need. A drug dealer's sales go through the roof if word gets out one of his customers overdosed. It's the craziest thing I know about addiction. Motivational interviewing exists for a reason. I constantly run across comments on Reddit that say things like, if your therapist isn't telling you to get out of this relationship now, then you need a new therapist. But humans have a tendency to dig their heels in when told to do something they feel ambivalent about. There are ways to help people realize what's going to be best for them that don't involve giving straight advice. In fact, I'd say giving straight advice can be one of the least effective methods for a lot of people/issues. And these people in our office probably have a dozen friends already giving them that advice, and they're still not acting on it. I'm a clinical psychologist. Something I've discovered as a nurse during my time in the NICU. If someone is upset, either angry, sad, worried, whatever, telling them it's okay to feel that way calms them down more than anything else you can say. Validate their feelings. Don't try to tell them how it could be worse. Never use the phrase "at least" followed by anything. Tell them it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling. Something that makes me wonder how we survived as a species and then answers my question at the same time. People will adhere to what they believe to be true over what they know to be true. Politics, religion, anxiety, depression, staying with an abuser are all examples. Even when they're able to state what they know, their beliefs interfere, and that cognitive dissonance will resolve closer to their belief. As a therapist, it's my job to help them know what they know and slowly alter their beliefs to be more consistent with what they know. Too quick of a change strengthens the belief system. It amazes me every time a patient has an epiphany and then almost immediately reverts. People aren't attracted by what's right. They are attracted by what's familiar. If you think you have a shit magnet, look at your parents. The more senses you can engage in an anxiety reduction strategy, the better it will work. Like the poster mentioned earlier, your brain does not differentiate why it is ramping the nervous system up. So you have to send it the clear message that this is a safe moment to not be hyper-aroused. Your sadness has different symptoms depending on the trigger. Getting broken up with or losing a loved one often manifests as crying/seeking social support. Pursuing a goal and failing at achieving it can cause reclusive behavior. Feeling very tired. Wanting to be alone, in theory to stop you from endeavoring on another fruitless mission. Our subconscious doesn't know the difference between our heart racing out of attraction versus fear. So basically, if you're going on a first date with someone you really like, then ride some roller coasters with them and they will find you more attractive. All behavior has a purpose. An extension of this. There is no such thing as people being lazy. If people aren't doing something others think they should, it's for a reason. Even if said person doesn't know that reason either. It might be an avoidance tactic, a learned behavior, or even their body/mind feeling overwhelmed and requiring rest before they take on different tasks. Following that, if people are trying to rest and get nagged non-stop, they never actually get to rest and hence, never get to build up the energy to tackle the things on their to-do lists. There is a fairly common misconception that people in severe depressive states are the most likely to commit suicide. The data shows that suicide is most common in people coming out of a major depression who are in a manic state. Often this time period is one where the depressed individual appears to be getting better. I want more people to know this so they can catch the red flags many people miss when a friend or family member kills themselves. I am a firm believer alcohol addiction are a symptom, not a condition. As a psychiatrist, I have never met a patient where the addiction did not either fully or mostly disappear after treating the underlying psychological/psychiatric condition. An interesting psychological fact about humans is that regardless of the profession the OP asks for an answer from, a million other people with different jobs will answer. Your eyes can actually see your nose, and it would take up more of the corners of your vision had your brain not trained itself to ignore it. Basically, your brain learns to filter out information it finds not useful. Also, our memory is so vulnerable to decay that when you remember something from a while ago, you're probably just remembering the last time you thought about it instead of the actual event itself. I learned that depressed people tend to have a more accurate perception of themselves than non-depressed people. Makes sense since people mostly focus on their positive attributes and ignore or don't want to confront their negative traits, whereas a depressed person's negative outlook is closer to being realistic. That said, having a positively biased view of yourself, though not too extreme, can be highly advantageous. Whilst being depressed obviously has great disadvantages, also the mere exposure effect is a cool phenomenon. Not a therapist, but drug use is strongly linked to conditioning. Yes, that shit Pavlov, Watson, and Skinner did. Many addicts or drug users have a ritual. Over time, their bodies get used to this ritual, which forms an association in their brain. Due to this, in order to maintain homeostasis, their body will pre-respond to a drug. Many overdoses occur with the user taking a normal dose, just in a different setting, with different people, etc. There was a case study of 3 heroin addicts. I can't remember the other 2, but this one lady usually missed her vein 2 or 3 times before she got it in, which became her ritual. She OD'd on a dose she had taken many times before, because she got it in on the first try. Not a therapist, but having worked in mental health practitioners are usually just slashed or more messed up than patients. A psychiatric nurse told me this when I did work experience. People who have had broken lives/families usually go into psychology as a way of understanding the bad crap that happened. Then many stay to help others. People who are facing the effects of trauma can have physical symptoms that result in long-term medical issues, high blood pressure, heart-related issues, cancer, etc. Seeking treatment for trauma can help this. Trauma victims can exhibit the same behaviors as those who are trying to be deceitful. Having difficulty remembering what happened. Having difficulty tracking chronological order of things, so seeming to change a story around. Behaving different than how we expect a person should react with flat affect, etc. This leads many police who are trained to spot liars to disbelieve crime victims and furthering victims not wanting to come forward. Laughing is a common and natural reaction from anyone in the midst of a traumatic incident. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with the person or they're enjoying it. Their mind is trying to cope and release energy pent up from adrenaline. I work with crime victims, domestic violence victims, and adults who've experienced trauma. Just an undergrad at this point. But do you remember the time when you were a teenager and you just decided to start staying up until 2 a.m. or some other ungodly hour? That's normal. People's sleep clocks shift a couple hours backwards during adolescence and only readjust during their early mid-20s. Maybe this is more of a biological fact than psychological, but it's pretty closely related. Obligatory. I'm not a therapist, but I used to work in a maximum security prison doing intake interviews. I heard a lot of confessions, gave a lot of unofficial advice. One of the biggest things I learned is that if you treat someone with an ounce of respect, like a human being, like starting an interview with "Good afternoon, sir/ma'am, please have a seat." Even the most combative inmates lose all fight, and usually I can get the interview done in peace. Yeah, there were special cases where no matter how civil I was, the inmate was not about cooperating, but for the most part it worked. I tried to treat every inmate like a human being. Yeah, they fricked up, but they are still human. A smile and a polite greeting got me much further than a harsh command. Most maladaptive things that people get stuck in likely save their life at some point. Most humans don't do things to hurt themselves intentionally. Examples: self-harm may keep someone from attempting suicide to reduce pain or shift emotional pain to physical pain, which may be more manageable. Someone with an eating disorder likely developed it to cope with intensive trauma or feelings of a loss of control in their life. Someone's anxiety feels like it can keep them safe from being hurt. Seeing people through this lens helps me never get frustrated with people because they are doing what they had to do to survive, either consciously or unconsciously. It makes sense. Sitting at an unstable table or chair makes you feel like your conversations and relationships with the person you are talking to are rocky, unpredictable, and unstable as well. On the flip side, holding a warm drink makes you feel warmth and friendliness with the people you are talking to. Translation: if you need to have a serious talk with someone, give them a warm drink and make sure their chair is level. Body language is an important contributing factor in how you feel. The term power stance exists for a reason. If you are nervous for an interview or other big event, you can make yourself feel better and more confident by purposefully changing your posture. These include hands on hips, wider stance, sprawling while sitting to take up more space, and literally raising your hands outstretched over your head. Basically, confident people take up more space with their bodies, while scared/anxious/lower status people hunch up and make themselves small in a space. You can literally make yourself feel more confident just by forcing your body into a more confident body position. If you feel like you are being watched, you probably are. Humans have a natural instinct to detect when someone or something is looking at them. That truly accepting the fact that you can't control other people, only how you react to them, will reduce a majority of your stress and make you happier in general. Men's testosterone levels drop steeply after their spouse gives birth to their child. It is thought to ensure the men's sex drive is lower and therefore they're less likely to stray away from their healing spouse and newborn infant in the early weeks after birth. The levels do increase after about 6 weeks, but not up to the level they were before the birth. It's thought to ensure the father is more caring and concerned for the infant who is relying upon him for survival. Humans need someone who could listen to them without being judgmental. Not a therapist, but extensive background in psychology, depression and anxiety are actually functional facets of the human experience. It's okay/normal/healthy for a person to feel depressed after a life-altering event or significant loss. It's not normal when it continues for an extended period of time or without provocation to an extent that you can no longer function. We aren't meant to be happy and carefree all of the time. After years and years of studies in psychology, I've come to this revelation: human sucks. Please subscribe if you liked the video. It really helps the channel to grow. See you again.